I would share something about how I see our social work in Europe from an outsider or from a third party's view. In fact, honestly speaking, before I move on to prepare this part of presentation to compare our social work in Europe and in Hong Kong, I'm not so familiar, really, I'm not so familiar with our work in Europe. Since, as I presented yesterday, our social work have been developed in Hong Kong for 35 years. So, in my mind, I'm always so proud to say that our social work in Hong Kong are systematically and professionally organized. So, I appreciate it. Originally, I appreciate so much of our social work in Hong Kong. However, in order to prepare the presentation today, so I've searched and reviewed many literature about our social work in Europe. After this literature review, I found that our social work in Europe is really well developed. And I found that it is well developed with strong coordination with the platform under European Commission or the Council of Europe. Just like the conference today, and you can organize conference regularly and prepare. I know that you have prepared many practice manuals with concerted efforts from different countries. Do you know the situation in Hong Kong? In Hong Kong, I think after the welfare reform in early 2000, competition for program funding and innovative service idea between different agencies and between different service coordination and mutual learning between different agencies become very, very rare. Maybe I think this is also one of the Chinese character that we are always afraid that the idea that I disclose will be learned and will be stolen by others. So we always put our eye in that way instead of putting our eyes on the greater synergetic effect through mutual learning. So after this literature review, and this is also reinforced through this 2 days conference that I think Hong Kong still has many things to learn from the experience in Europe. I find that another area that Hong Kong should learn from the experience in Europe is the multidisciplinary cooperation in the service. I find that many disciplines such as health, medical, education, and welfare have also close cooperation, particularly in handling drugs or mental health related issues in European countries. I find that some outreach team also built in nurse in your manpower structure. In Hong Kong, I think we all understand that multidisciplinary cooperation between legal, health, medical, education, and social welfare sector is very important. But the reality is that this multidisciplinary cooperation in Hong Kong is still quite passive. It is highly dependent on each team's and each outreach team's independent strategy. That is the situation in Hong Kong. The third area I find it is amazing in Europe is your peer work. I find that in Europe, peers, volunteer, family, and schools, and other related parties are highly involved in our social work. Peer work is widely employed even in different countries from my literature review. Through peer work, you have done many things about to ask those peers to give peer support and even have education to the police and through the peers to link with other hard-to-reach youth in their circle. I find that this kind of peer work is wonderful. In my understanding, I find that it's wonderful to empower and to include our service target in society and in the service, even though these peers, they also have their negative past experience in the past. In Hong Kong, our situation is that peer work is not common. It's not common in outreach work. Even volunteer involvement in outreach work in Hong Kong also is rare. Our main reservation is that we are afraid that the possible negative mutual influence between the peers and the clients will happen. This kind of negative influence between them. So, if it is really happen, we need to take up the risk of all this kind of possible negative influence of the arrangement. So, we give up such an important and useful aspect in outreach work. So, in this aspect, I think we need to learn more from the experience and we need to learn more from the experience in Europe on how or any special measures have been prepared to prevent from this kind of possible negative influence between peers and the client. Of course, another area that I find it is useful to be learned in Hong Kong, of course, is working with family. I have discussed this experience in Hong Kong. So at this point, I think Hong Kong should learn more from the experience in Europe that's in reaching out. I know that you have many experience in reaching out to family with various kind of means, such as organize different activity in the festival, reaching out to visit young people's home. And in some country, I know that a family group conference is also arranged to work with each family to work out the plan for their children. All this kind of work in working with family are fascinating for me. Of course, apart from the experience that I have, that Hong Kong should learn, I have two remarks. The first remark is that I find that the term outreach work in Europe is sometimes used interchangeably with detached work, street work, and sometimes this term specifying different kinds of service. From a third party's view or from an outsider's view, sometimes these terms are rather confusing for me. And I'm afraid that the image of outreach work may not be so clear or so strong in society. So I think until this moment, I can't differentiate the difference between these three kinds of work: outreach work, street work, and detached work. Okay, I will run it fast. The second remark is that I know that one of the challenge for outreach work in Europe is to take a right balance between informality and the professionalization of the service. Facing with this challenge, I think I would like to remind that sometimes professionalization also will be quite dangerous or quite disempowering by placing our client in a quite vulnerable non-professional position. So Our clients' voice and participation, I think, can never be excluded in the process of professionalization. I think this is my feedback on to compare about our social work in Hong Kong and in Europe. In fact, I have prepared my PowerPoint. I would give Mr. Patterson, and you can upload onto the web. Thank you. Thank you.